In the kingdom of Arya, the king and his knights ride across the hills, pursuing a dragon. They follow the creature into a cave where they encounter something that leaves them utterly stunned. Suddenly, the dragon swoops in, breathing fire and killing most of the knights in an instant. She then uses her tail to capture and kill the remaining knights one by one. Finally, she approaches the king, who falls to his knees, resigned to his fate. Many centuries later, in a northern land, Floria and Elodie are gathering whatever wood they can find. They are the daughters of the local lord, doing their best to support their people, who are suffering from hunger and cold as the harsh winter ravages the land. Every day, more and more people leave, threatening the very existence of their town. Suddenly, the sisters spot a carriage approaching, a rare sight as they seldom receive visitors. They rush back home to find their father, Lord Bayford, and stepmother, Lady Bayford, conversing with a nun, who, before departing, says that Elodie will suffice. Lord Bayford then informs Elodie that the royal family of Arya has requested her hand in marriage for their prince. Initially, Elodie refuses, but Bayford persuades her by pointing out that their town would receive enough wealth to sustain them for years. Later, the family sails to Arya. As they near their destination, the ship enters a dense mist, and the group becomes frightened by eerie shapes in the darkness, which turn out to be two giant dragon statues. Upon landing, the family is awestruck by the land's prosperity and the grandeur of the castle. Servants escort them to their rooms, informing them that they will meet the royal family the following day. Elodie steps onto the balcony to admire the view and notices a girl around her age on another balcony, who is quickly taken away by a maid. That night, Elodie, unable to sleep, keeps herself occupied with drawing. She then goes to the balcony for some fresh air and notices the other girl's room is dark. She is also surprised to see torches in the distance, suggesting someone is ascending the mountain in the dead of night. The next day, Elodie's family meets the royals. Queen Isabel sends Elodie to spend time with Prince Henry before the wedding. After an initially awkward start, Elodie and Henry warm up to each other and have a pleasant conversation. After Henry compliments Elodie's artistic skills mentioned in her letter, Elodie inquires about the torches she saw the previous night. Henry explains it's part of one of 3 ancient ceremonies that honor their ancestors, which is why the wedding is scheduled for that day. Meanwhile, in the castle, Lord Bayford finishes discussing the deal with Isabel and appears quite upset. Lady Bayford tries to check on him, but he snaps, insisting nothing is wrong. Later, Lady Bayford attempts to chat with Isabel, who does not respond well. When Lady Bayford suggests that their families should bond and get along, Isabel coldly remarks that this arrangement is merely a transaction out of necessity. She needs a princess, and Bayford's land needs funds. She also reminds Lady Bayford of her humble origins as a rope maker's daughter, advising her not to forget her place. Lady Bayford notices that Isabel mispronounces Elodie's name and tries to correct her, but Isabel is indifferent and walks away. In the evening, a concerned Lady Bayford warns Elodie that something suspicious is going on and suggests the wedding should be called off. However, before they can discuss further, Lord Bayford appears and sends everyone to bed. The following morning, the maids assist Elodie in getting ready for the ceremony. She is given a beautiful dress, complete with a blunt dagger and a perfume diffuser. The wedding proceeds smoothly. Henry and Elodie exchange rings, share a kiss, and Elodie is crowned. Afterward, Elodie bids farewell to her family and joins Henry in a carriage, where he explains that they will participate in the ancient ceremony on the mountain. They ascend a rocky staircase, and Elodie is shocked to find a group of people wearing unsettling golden masks, with Isabel dressed like a nun. The queen gives Elodie a coin, saying she'll be helping protect the kingdom, and they proceed inside as Isabel recounts a story. When their ancestors first arrived on the island, they discovered a dragon living there, the last of its kind. The dragon attacked the settlement as soon as it saw the humans, so the king gathered his soldiers to fight the beast. However, the dragon killed everyone except the king, who was forced to sacrifice his 3 daughters so the island could be shared. As Elodie listens to the story, she notices everyone staring at her eerily, and they cross a dangerous bridge over a chasm. Isabel explains that the king's sacrifice is what they celebrate every generation before she cuts Henry's and Elodie's hands, pushing them together to mix their blood and covering them with a cloth, declaring Elodie now has royal blood. Next, Elodie throws the coin into the chasm, thinking the ritual is over. Henry picks her up to carry her across the bridge, but suddenly apologizes and throws her into the chasm. Screaming as she falls, Elodie hits branches until she lands in a mud puddle and passes out. Moments later, she wakes up with bruises all over her body, but she stands up and starts yelling for help. There's no one left on the bridge, but her cries awaken the dragon hidden deep in the cave. As Elodie's desperation turns into rage, she tears off her fancy jewelry and attempts to climb out, only to fall again, injuring herself further. At that moment, she notices other jewelry that isn't hers and realizes the royals have been sacrificing girls to the dragon for years. Suddenly, she hears a noise and sees a light inside a cave, so she goes in and finds a bird on fire. Elodie quickly uses dirt to extinguish the flames, but it's too late. The bird is already dead. Suddenly, a roar echoes through the cave, and hundreds of flaming birds emerge, flying above Elodie for a few moments before dropping dead around her. Using the tiny bodies as a source of light, Elodie searches for an exit, only to freeze when she sees the dragon approaching. Elodie hides behind a stalagmite as the dragon begins speaking, declaring that every generation of royalty must pay and that she can smell it in Elodie's blood. Realizing the ceremony is a ruse to deceive the dragon, Elodie runs as the dragon breathes fire, managing to enter a tunnel just in time to avoid the flames. Inside, she finds the charred remains of the girl she saw on the balcony. Hearing the dragon pursuing her, Elodie tries to escape through a small hole, but her dress gets caught. As the flames draw nearer, she struggles to free herself, eventually discarding the crinoline and fleeing to a smaller cavern. Unfortunately, some fire still reaches her leg, burning it and causing her to scream in pain. The dragon hears her but can't reach her due to the confined space. Once the dragon is gone, Elodie remembers the blunt dagger and sharpens it against a rock to cut off part of her dress. Despite the unbearable pain in her leg, she bandages the wound with the torn fabric. Next, she opens the diffuser and captures a bit of fire in it to use as a lantern. With this makeshift light, Elodie explores the cavern and eventually discovers a very narrow passage. She begins crawling through it, but her dress gets caught again. After freeing herself, she slides down the passage, but her hands are too wounded and tired to hold on, causing her to fall again, extinguishing the flame in the diffuser. Refusing to give up, Elodie stands and, using the wall for support, walks toward a distant light. After a painful journey, she exits the tunnel, only to nearly fall off the edge of a cliff. She can still see the light on the other side, so she removes her wedding ring and throws it into the abyss before stepping back and making a daring leap. Although the other side is slippery and she struggles to hold on, her belt catches on a rock, giving her just enough time to draw the dagger and lodge it into a crack to secure herself. Using the dagger, she climbs the rest of the way and discovers the light comes from glowing slugs. After confirming they're harmless, Elodie tears off a puffy sleeve and places several slugs inside to create a new lantern. She then continues walking and finds a small lake, but when she tries to drink, she spits the water out due to the cave plants, giving it a foul taste. However, she notices ice dripping from the ceiling, so Elodie stands underneath it to catch the drops. Suddenly, the ice begins melting faster, and the light coming through it takes on a reddish hue, revealing the dragon breaking through the ice with her fire. Elodie runs as the dragon smashes through the ice and lands in the cavern to chase her, once again failing to follow because Elodie enters another tunnel too small for the giant creature. In this cramped cavern, Elodie finds a message on the wall that says "safe here." She cannot reach, signed with the letter V. As she looks around, Elodie discovers dresses from many other girls and sees their names etched into the wall over the years, including the V belonging to a girl named Victoria. Elodie takes a moment to mourn them before removing the bandage from her leg, which hasn't improved. Exhausted, she tries to sleep while hugging the slug lantern. Out of nowhere, she begins to see the spirits of those who had been sacrificed before, all tormented by pain, fear, and betrayal. Victoria is in the process of writing her name on the wall when she suddenly turns to Elodie and reveals that it's all a deception. Just then, Elodie wakes up to find slugs crawling over her leg wound. Panicked, she starts removing them, only to realize that their slime has healing properties and her leg is healed. She places a slug on another major wound and apologizes for underestimating its effectiveness. Feeling better, Elodie takes a closer look around and discovers a map on the wall, suggesting that at least one girl managed to escape. The map indicates that she will encounter 3 forks in the tunnel and must take the middle one, following the crystals and the music to find her way out. Elodie tears off the troublesome parts of her dress, adds her name to the wall, and heads down the middle fork, ignoring the echoes of the dragon's growls. Soon, she hears a faint melody and walks a bit further to find a wall covered in crystals. These crystals are the source of the noise and they glow in the sunlight since they are directly beneath the exit. Nearby, there's a crown with a V, indicating Victoria had made it out. Because the crystals are sharp, Elodie tears more fabric from her dress to protect her hands and feet, then uses the crown to start climbing. Unaware that the dragon is watching, Elodie struggles to climb, and a crystal breaks under her hands, causing her to fall. However, she manages to catch herself with the crown at the last moment. Hearing the dragon nearby, she hastens her climb and finally reaches the exit, only to find herself at the edge of a high chasm in the mountain. Overwhelmed, Elodie collapses and cries. Just then, the sound of horses' neigh helps her notice a group of riders approaching the mountain. She tries to call for help, but the dragon swoops in and covers the chasm. Elodie steps back just in time and notices another message on the wall saying "not safe," signed by V. Nearby is a body, showing that Victoria died there without escaping. The dragon prepares to breathe fire but pauses when a male voice calls Elodie's name. As the dragon flies off to investigate, Lord Bayford arrives with 2 knights and a guide to search for Elodie. They descend into the cave with a rope and start searching, allowing Elodie to follow their voices to find her way back. In a new tunnel, she discovers a nest with 3 dead baby dragons and recalls Victoria's words, realizing Isabel had lied. The dragon wasn't the last of her kind, and she hadn't struck first. A flashback reveals that the king had entered the tavern to kill all the dragon's babies, making the dragon's attack an act of revenge. She killed the knights at the beginning, and when it was the king's turn, the dragon declared that death would be too merciful, and that he should suffer as she had. Since then, the royal family has been feeding the dragon 3 women with blood mixed to pass as royal daughters. Elodie eventually finds her father and his men, but remains hidden for safety. The dragon appears and grabs a knight, flying him up before dropping him from a great height. The knight bounces off the rocks and crashes to the ground, dying instantly. As the guide rides off to hide, the dragon seizes the second knight and crushes him under her paw before questioning Bayford. He explains that he's here to rescue his daughter and tries to attack with his sword, but the dragon grabs him with her tail and disarms him before dropping him. While Elodie waits for the right moment, the dragon demands Bayford call for his daughter. Bayford gives a heartfelt speech, apologizing and admitting his terrible mistake, then shouts for Elodie not to come out. The dragon pushes him down and stabs him in the heart with her claw. Elodie can't help but make a noise as she cries, and the dragon begins searching for her. Fortunately, the guard makes a noise, and the dragon goes after him, thinking it's Elodie. With the dragon gone, Elodie says goodbye to her father and kisses his forehead before he dies. She then uses the rope left by him to start climbing out of the tavern. Meanwhile, the dragon finds the guide and crushes him before pursuing Elodie. Elodie climbs quickly enough to avoid the flames now engulfing the entrance. She gets on her father's horse, but quickly jumps off to hide under some rocks. As the horse continues, the dragon is tricked and follows it to burn it to death. The dragon then breathes fire on the clouds, causing a fierce storm as a sign that the deal has been broken. In the castle, Isabel notices this and immediately sends her knights to kidnap Floria. Lady Bayford tries to stop them but gets stabbed in the process. When the fire subsides, Elodie emerges from hiding and encounters Lady Bayford, who arrived on horseback despite her wounds. Hearing what happened, Elodie vows to save her sister and takes the horse back to the mountain. Floria is taken to the bridge, but Henry refuses to perform the ritual with the child. Isabel ignores him, uses her own blood instead, cuts Floria's hand to mix the blood, and throws her into the chasm. By the time Elodie reaches the bridge, everyone is gone and Floria is unconscious in the dragon's grasp, who is keeping her alive to lure Elodie. Desperate, Elodie descends back into the tavern with the rope, using her previous experience to navigate the path faster. After confirming the map to locate the dragon's lair, Elodie arms herself with her father's sword and sets a trap for the dragon. The trap consists of some armor and rope burning under a small flame. Elodie retreats, and when the rope burns through, the armor falls, causing the dragon to fly out of her lair to investigate the noise. This gives Elodie the chance to sneak in and wake Floria, who moves slowly due to a wounded leg. As the dragon discovers the trap and returns to the lair, Floria hides while Elodie readies her sword. She tries to explain that they have all been deceived by the queen, but the dragon doesn't believe her and attempts to breathe fire. Elodie stabs the dragon's mouth with the sword to redirect the attack but ends up falling from the edge of the lair, suffering some burns on her arms and shoulder. As the dragon removes the sword, Elodie lands in a lake and swims out just in time for Floria to throw her another sword. Suddenly, the dragon attacks her, holding her while stabbing her with a claw. Before the dragon can kill her, Elodie pulls out a dagger and stabs the dragon in the eye, causing the beast to throw her aside. Elodie grabs the sword again and charges at the dragon, who struggles to see with one eye. She manages to stab the dragon in the chest, but it doesn't cause much harm, and the dragon seizes her once more. Elodie stabs the dragon's paw, making it drop her again. As the dragon approaches, Elodie notices dust bouncing off a curved stalagmite, inspiring an idea. She stands in front of the stalagmite and challenges the dragon to burn her. The dragon breathes fire, but Elodie moves at the last moment and the fire bounces off the stalagmite, causing it to land on the dragon and finally bring her down. Afterward, Elodie shows the dragon the scar on her hand to prove that the beast has been killing innocent girls, not royal ones. The dragon asks her to end it, but Elodie drops the sword and refuses to perpetuate the cycle of hatred. Instead, she gathers some slugs and places them on the dragon's body to help her recover. Meanwhile, another wedding is being held in the castle to trick the next girl of the generation. Suddenly, a coin rolls down the altar and Elodie enters, urging the bride to flee with her family. She tells the locals they can also escape if they wish, but only the servants take her seriously and leave. At that moment, the dragon arrives and burns everyone present, killing Isabel and all the royal family members to end the reign. As everyone panics, Henry accepts his fate, knowing he deserves it. The castle soon collapses, but Elodie walks away with her head held high. A few days later, Elodie, Floria, and a recovered Lady Bayford prepare to leave on a ship loaded with gold and supplies for their people. They decide to rule their land together, and Elodie even starts calling Bayford mother instead of stepmother. During the journey home, the dragon flies nearby and shares a nod of mutual respect with Elodie.